Fellas, what is going on? Happy Saturday. Hope you guys had a good Friday. Hope you guys have an even better Saturday. But yeah, I'll be breaking down this 6 game NBA slate here on DraftKings. So if you're new, my name is Hart. I do daily slate breakdowns for the NBA, NFL, PGA, all that good stuff. Where I talk through my favorite plays, game by game breakdown if it's the NBA, all that good stuff. So make sure to hit that like button. Do really appreciate all the people that have been hitting the like button recently. We've got to 35 likes not last video, but the previous video. So if we can get to 30, 35 likes for this video, that'd be great. So thank you guys for doing that. And yeah, let's get into the breakdown and keep cashing because right now on a great cash streak, 4 to the 5 past days. We are 1 point away from hitting 5 out of 5. So let's continue that streak tonight. As always, make sure to check out my Twitter here. As you can see, we went 2-0 on the Price Picks video yesterday, over on Garland and over on Trey Jones, or excuse me, Tyus Jones, points and assists. So yeah, great night last night, as you can see here. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. And then for NBA, once again, cash. So past 4 out of 5 days, we have cash, or excuse me, I have cash. Should have been 5, as I said. Was 1 point away from cashing, I think 2 nights ago. So a little frustrating, but obviously it's not huge money, but I can't complain. I mean, cashing 4 out of 5 days is always nice, even if you're winning just a buck, even if it was 25 cents. Doesn't matter. You're still cashing. You're still putting out good lineups. I feel a big win coming here soon. It's a little annoying because if you take a look, it's only 50K to first tonight, which not really sure why. I mean, we can have big NCAA contests, other sport contests while we have big NBA contests. Like that's a little annoying, but yeah, I went with Dejounte Murray, classic him, just not doing well in a great matchup. Desmond Bain, obviously they got overtime, so that really helped out for those Memphis guys. But he got 50, Ingram with 46. Surprised he wasn't a little bit more owned there in a great spot against Houston. Only 13% owned. Mobley, solid game there. J Val, absolutely punished the faders there. That was fantastic. 1% owned in one of the best matchups in the world, and no one wanted to play him, and he went off. 22, 17, 4 blocks, 52 fantasy points at 1% ownership. That was fantastic. Derek White was okay. Kaminga was okay. And then I went to Kleber, and him hitting that three actually, I think, helped me cash, which was great there. And obviously won them the game. Put them 2 games ahead of the Lakers, got them tiebreaker. So a lot of things happened with that last shot there for Kleber. So shout out to Kleber for getting me into the cash last night. But yeah, looking to continue the success. It's been great so far. A lot of the early look core plays have actually been working. Sometimes I've changed them, obviously just because of the injury news, but they have been working. So starting off with Minnesota here in Toronto. Minnesota's coming off of a back-to-back. They just played the Bulls last night. And the big news here is that Anthony Edwards did get hurt. He hurt his ankle, so I doubt there's a chance he plays. We never know. But he was spotted in a walking boot after the game. Only played 8 minutes, so I'm assuming they're going to hold him out. With him out, they're probably going to start, obviously, Gobert, Anderson, Conley, McDaniels. It'll be interesting who they start in place of Anthony Edwards. Maybe it's Reed, or excuse me, maybe it's Prince. Maybe they throw in Alexander Walker. Maybe they throw in, where'd he go? Jalen Noel. We'll have to wait and see. Noel hasn't played in a while. So it's very interesting because they don't really have a standout scorer now. Like Anthony Edwards was pretty much the whole offensive side there. Like everything was going through him. He was the main scorer, and they don't really have that off the bench with Noel questionable. He was the guy like who would fill in. He's super aggressive, but with him out, it's like I'm assuming it's going to spread around. We're going to have to wait and see. But I do like some of these Minnesota guys. I'd probably lean towards Anderson, maybe Reed if he plays or if he starts. Whoever kind of starts in place of um, Anthony Edwards, I'd probably like. So it's more one of those you kind of have to wait and see what the starting lineup's going to be like because they definitely really shifted around. But yeah, and there's obviously some blowout risk now going against Toronto just because they lost their best scorer, and I'm not really sure where the offense is going to come for this Minnesota side. So a lot of question marks, and thank God it's the first game, so we can get that information before the slate starts. On the Toronto side here, as I said, Siakam was great for us last game. Had that huge game against OKC. Nice bounce back spot there. He's still pretty cheap in a fantastic matchup, so I don't mind running it back with him, even if he is a little bit elevated ownership. Van Vliet's a little bit too pricey for me, but I don't mind him. We know the starters for the Raptors are all going to see huge minutes, but they're all pretty, priced about right. So they're all just like strong secondary plays. OG's been doing better recently. Gary Trent had that big game there. His price came up 1,000, so I think I'm gonna stay away. He's super score independent, so really needs to be hitting the shots to do well. I don't mind Boucher. Seeing low teens to mid teens minutes. Could definitely get extended if someone gets in foul trouble or if there's a blowout. So I think he's a very risky, but could be a nice GPP play for tonight. Moving on to Philadelphia and Indiana, another spot where it could be potential blowout risk, but obviously Joel Embiid looks fantastic. I mean, he's been on an insane run recently, so I like buying in on Joel. Price really hasn't moved. Same thing with Harden. Both their prices look great. Maxey, Harris, both strong secondary plays. Harris actually had a decent game yesterday, so yeah, not too much to discuss here for the 76ers. It's really every slate. It's really just Embiid and Harden. They're always very strong plays. You can always play them together to get some leverage on the field. And then Maxey and Harris are always decent secondary options. I prefer Harris just because of the price difference, but I think they're both solid. But would rather land on the 2 stars, obviously. On the Indiana side, Halburn still out, Mathurin out, Duarte out. So they're most likely going to start Turner, Heald, Nemhard, Nuora, and Naismith. That's what they started last game. Nuora actually saw some decent run, 33 minutes, 31 minutes the previous game. So I do like him at his price tag, 5,400. It's a decent price tag for him. Naismith looks okay. He's been doing better the past 2 games, but he's super foul prone. If he gets in foul prone, they tend to bench him for a while. So I just don't love the matchup here for Naismith. Trust Nuora, who's in the small forward spot, a little bit more. TJ McConnell, Nemhard, I think they both look very, very solid. McConnell will most likely be more popular than Nemhard. So if you want to pivot to Nemhard, I don't mind it, but McConnell's definitely the better point per minute guy. As you can see, came off the bench, put up 43 fantasy points in 30 minutes, 9 of 12. He's been super, super efficient and super good this year. So I do really like TJ McConnell at 6,100. Even in a tough matchup, I think he absolutely cooked the 76ers last time they played revenge game. Not here, even though he did very, very solid in 22 minutes. I think it was a little bit earlier in the season when he was getting those starts over Tyrese just because Tyrese is hurt. Um, Thought so. I don't know. But yeah, he's been great this year. So I like throwing TJ in there. And you can get to these other guys as like strong secondary options. As I mentioned, I do like Noir good amount. Um, Nemhard, Buddy, Turner are all decent secondary options. But right now for me, it's going to be TJ and McConnell, even though it's a pretty tough matchup there against the 76ers. Moving on to Miami and Chicago. Miami obviously gets a fantastic matchup here against Chicago, who's coming off a back to back. So maybe they're going to struggle a little bit. But Jimmy comes in at a decent price tag. He's been great the past week and a half. So if you want to buy in on a player who's been pretty hot recently, revenge game. We know Jimmy likes revenge games, especially against the Bulls. So expect him to come out and play strong. I do really like Bam here going against Vooch. Had coming off a good game against Memphis. I expect Bam to get his. So I do really, really, really like Bam here in this matchup. I do think Tyler Hero's decent. 7K. We know his upside. So I do like him as well. Yeah, a lot of interest here from Miami. It's really just going to stick to those main 3 guys for me. Sure, you can land on a Martin, who's playing actually solid minutes, close to 30. Kyle Lowry most likely is back. Should see anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. He'd be okay value. Victor Oladipo looks solid if there's no Lowry. If there's Lowry, Victor looks like an okay value, kind of forced. Kevin Love, I think he's a solid value, 3,700. Only playing about 21 minutes, but he could definitely get you there. Really hasn't got you there recently, but we know he has upside, especially against the Bulls, who could love giving up a ton of threes. So right now, I'd say just stick with the main 3 guys, and then you can definitely dip down to a Martin if you want, or the other guys. On the Chicago side, Zach's been scoring the ball great recently. Same thing with DeRozan. Past 3 games, he's been scoring it very, very well. So I think all 3 of these Bulls guys have interest for me. I still prefer getting to Vooch. He just seems like the safest here. But obviously, Bam is a pretty tough defender. So if I had to choose one, I'd probably pick DeRozan here or Zach to go with if you want a piece from the Bulls team. Otherwise, really no interest. Pat Williams, Bev, these guys are okay. Williams, a decent value, 3,800, should see mid-20s minutes. Could definitely get you there. Kobe White, mid-20s minutes as well. It's just no one really stands out. Maybe a Caruso. I don't mind taking a shot on him. A tougher matchup, tougher team. They'll probably rely on his defense more. So I think he'd be my favorite one down there. Moving on to Golden State and Memphis, we obviously get a fantastic matchup here. Steph is way too cheap here at 10-3. I'm not really sure why they have him at this price tag when the dude's shooting 28 and 27 times a game. So I love Steph here. Who else do we got here? Klay Thompson. I think he looks decent. Obviously, there's that risk. I will mention this. I forgot to mention. there's a huge risk that Steph gets ruled out. Um, they are jockeying for position, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do play him. But there is that chance if he gets ruled out. If he does, obviously we're going to load up on Poole. We're going to load up on Thompson. But right now with Steph most likely in, I think it's way too cheap for him. Poole and Thompson are just strong secondary options. I prefer getting into Thompson. And then Draymond Green is definitely too cheap here. Obviously, it's against Memphis. There's a chance he gets thrown out because he gets in a fight with Dylan Brooks, but he's huge upside. And then DiVincenzo, Looney, who had a huge game yesterday. I think they're strong secondary options. Kuminga should move back to the bench. He's a little bit too pricey for me. And if you want to take a dart throw on like a cheap guy off the bench, you could look to Lamb, who should see about 15-ish minutes. But right now, really the priority is for Steph Curry for me, and then probably Draymond Green there at 6,100. Do really like both of those guys. On the Memphis side, I still think Bane's too cheap. Same thing with Tyus Jones, and same thing with Jaren Jackson Jr. Obviously, a great matchup here. As we saw the other day versus Golden State, Tyus Jones put up 22, 11, and 4 with 51. That game was super weird because it was like a blowout by 15 after the first quarter, and then Golden State brought it close, and there was another 15-point blowout at halftime. Then Golden State brought it close, 15-point blowout in the fourth quarter. So super funky game, super weird, but it should be a very good game. And I do want a lot of exposure from this game. I'm sure that'll be the popular move for today, but it's definitely where I want to go is get some exposure from that side, both sides. Moving on to Sacramento, Washington, another great game environment here. Sabonis looks solid. He's another one of those hot players who's been great recently. You could definitely buy in on. Absolutely killing it with rebounds recently as well. Same thing with assists. So, I mean, we're getting a fantastic matchup here. Like Sabonis, like Fox, his price is coming down. Obviously, pretty score independent at times, but he's another player who's been on fire recently. He really turns it up in the third and fourth quarter. And then the wings, I don't think there's a need to get some. Herter obviously got hurt, so it'll be interesting who slides in the starting lineup for him. I'm assuming it will just be Sabonis, Fox, Barnes, Murray, and I think they might throw in. Where do you go? Am I missing him? Holmes, Alex Len, Dodo, PG. What happened to Davis? What 3,000? I do think they'll slide him into starting lineup. There's been times where he starts and he gets like 15 minutes. They don't really rely on him too much, or there's been times where he does get like full run. So he's definitely a little bit risky, but at 3,000, it's gonna be hard not to play him if he does start. So obviously, we have to wait and see who they start with him. But I do really like him, and I do really like Malik Monk off the bench here. 4,700. So 29 minutes in that last game. Still put up 27 fantasy points with a bad night of shooting, 3 of 11. So definitely keep an eye out on that injury news there and who starts for Herter if he is out. I'm assuming he is. He's day to day, but I'm assuming they'll give him 1 day of rest or a few days of rest. Then Trey Lyles, he's questionable as well. He's actually been super productive too off the bench. So if he's out, you can definitely see more minutes for a guy like they've been running a weird rotation. They've been giving more minutes to a guy like Kessler Edwards recently. So I don't love the price tag, but he could see a few more minutes. They could definitely dust off a Me Too, even a Holmes if they're back. But right now, the focus is obviously one of the top two guys, Sabonis or Fox, and then either Monk or Davis or even both for me. So I do like Sacramento a decent amount. Washington side, obviously a great matchup. These guys are just more strong secondary options. Like they should all be pretty low owned. Porzingis, Beal, Kuzma. If I had to choose one out of those three, it'd be Porzingis. Even though Beal's slightly out, performed him the past 2 weeks, I'd say. But I think still Porzingis is just a little bit safer. We've seen at times Beal just become unaggressive, but yeah, Beal's been solid recently. So I do like both of them. Kuzma's kind of the odd man out coming off of a bad game there. So you can definitely buy low on him. Don't mind it. Obviously a very solid matchup. Could definitely see all these guys being super low owned and having a huge night. So definitely keep that in mind. And then you can definitely dip down to guys like Gafford and Morris. I think they're decent secondary options. Morris does have some upside there. But that's really it. Moving on to Boston and Utah. Last game here. We got Tatum 10-7, Brown 9-3. Always very solid spend ups. We get a great matchup here against Utah. Usually a team we like to attack with the center position, but obviously Al Horford, more of a power forward, not going to be a guy they just throw the ball to 100 times. So he looks decent. Smart, always a GPP play. White, always a GPP play. But right now, obviously, I think it's just going to be Tatum or Brown for me. If you want to get weird or if you want to land on these mid 5K guys, you definitely can, but no real need. It's really just the top two guys. And then on the Utah side, Laurie's always super contrarian. He's been fantastic, even in tough matchups, even in blowout spots. He's always been great. So I don't mind him. It's just hard to get to him and hard to have faith in him. If Clarkson plays, obviously it helps. You'll keep this game close. If he's out, the start, obviously Laurie, Kessler, Tucker, Olenek, and probably Agbaji have been getting Fantaccio, a ton of minutes off the bench, as you can see. Some of these games have been blowouts, but some of them have been close, and he's been productive at times. So I don't mind taking a shot at him at 3,700. I remember at the beginning of the season, there was a little bit of a stretch where he was doing good in random spots. So yeah, I don't mind taking a shot at him. He's obviously pretty risky, but he could definitely get some solid run off the bench. And that's really it for me. Everyone else is kind of priced about right in a tough matchup. So if you didn't think this game stays close, we could definitely see some more minutes for Fantaccio. But that's about it. So yeah, right now, obviously the early core plays are going to be Steph Curry, Davis, or Monk, depending on who starts. It's probably going to be Davis, and they'll probably be Monk off the bench. Um, I don't love playing both of them, but at the same time, I kind of do because Terrence Davis is 3,000. He could still have a decent game, and Monk could come off the bench and still have a solid game. So definitely keep it in mind. But both those two guys look great. Bam looks fantastic here in a matchup against Vooch in Chicago at this price tag. Do really like him. Should be pretty low owned. And then TJ McConnell will probably be super chalky, but I love him in the spot. Obviously, tough matchup, but he does like playing well against the 76ers in the revenge game narrative. So make sure to stay updated with me on Twitter at HardTFS. Hit that like button as I do really appreciate it. And check out my price fix video, which should be out in a few minutes. Peace.